Hello and welcome to Sports Week. I'm Harry Jones, here with all the best sports coverage from around the county. The Three Lions played their last game before the World Cup last night as they drew 3-3 with old enemies Germany. Owen Noon went out and asked locals what they thought of the match and how they rated England's chances in Qatar.
England's last game before Qatar ended in a 3-3 draw against their biggest rivals Germany. After some poor performances from Nick Pope and Harry Maguire, the game was turned around by second half substitutes Bukayo Saka and Mason Mount. Let's see what the people of Winchester have to say about England's chances at the World Cup.
I think we could do well, but I'm not a fan of Gareth Southgate myself.
I think they'll make it out of the group, but in terms of winning, they're not winning it.
Come on, England!
A long trip to South Wales awaits Winchester City tonight as they look to start making ground in their new division. Patch Hill spoke to manager Craig Davis and youngster Dan Neild ahead of their fixture against Merthyr.
Winchester City face 14th in the league, Merthyr Town this evening. Manager Craig Davis says he's looking forward to the game.
Yeah, okay, it's going to be good. Good to have, get some regular games. Saturday, Tuesday is quite good. Difficulty is it's in Merthyr, which is absolutely miles away, so we've got lads having to get out of work and stuff like that, which is really difficult. But no, we look forward to the game.
Young squad member Dan Neild hopes to grab some game time in his next fixture.
Yeah, I think we can. I mean, very long journey, Merthyr away, Tuesday night. But no, definitely, I think it's up for grabs. And if we play like we did today and a bit better quality, then yeah.
Merthyr Town versus Winchester City will kick off at 7:45 this evening.
So a big game this evening for the citizens. But first, let's see how they fared on Saturday afternoon as they welcomed Hendon to the Charters Community Stadium.
After a 3-1 loss to Weymouth in the FA Cup, Winchester City were looking for a response as they welcomed the struggling Hendon to the Charters Community Stadium. The hosts were on the front foot in the opening exchanges as they created a number of decent opportunities, although they were unable to find a cutting edge and couldn't take an early lead. Hendon started to grow into the game midway through the first period, and they were the first to get on the score sheet by a close-range Mooreazil effort. Winchester continued to attack following Hendon's opener, and Warren Bentley went closest for the hosts with a golden opportunity from 6 yards out that he couldn't poke home, with Simba Malambo failing to finish the rebound either. Eventually, Craig Davis's side would level the scoring, with in-form forward Obeng heading home in the 36th minute after a smart cross from Warren Bentley. Both sides searched for the knockout punch in the second half, as goalkeepers Charlie Philpott and Brozowski were both called into action on numerous occasions and pulled off some impressive saves to keep the scores level for the remainder of the Southern League fixture. Full time at the Charters Community Stadium, Winchester City 1, Hendon 1.
We could have easily gone on and got 3, but equally we could have lost the game, which would have been a sickener, because I thought for long spells we dominated the game. Indebted to a couple of really good saves from Charlie, but we had a lot of chances, I thought. But ultimately it's not a bad point.
So no victory today for Winchester City, but an encouraging performance and a hard-earned point for Craig Davis' side. And it's a pretty quick turnaround for the citizens as they make the long trip to Merthyr on Tuesday night as they aim to climb the Southern League table. Harry Jones, Winchester News Online. Elsewhere this weekend, mid-table Eastleigh faced a struggling Halifax Town side as they look to push into the top half of the Vanarama National League.
Eastleigh were in action against Halifax Town this weekend in a tightly contested game, with the first major chance falling to Halifax Town when Jordan Keane was pushed in the box in the 21st minute, earning his side a penalty. Mark Warburton stepped up, forcing Joe McDonnell into a flying save, keeping his side in the game. The Spitfires swiftly countered and 2 minutes later opened the scoring, with Charlie Carter rolling the ball into the divers Sam Johnson, getting his second of the season. The match finished 1-0, and that was Eastleigh's 4th win of the campaign, leaving them 11th in the table. Next up for the Spitfires is Gateshead on Saturday.
It was the return of the Mara Fun last Sunday in Winchester. The event, held by Rees Leisure, was also trialling their new Hilly 10k event. We sent Grace Benson to find out how they got on.
3, 2, 1. On Sunday, thousands gathered at the Guildhall in Winchester for Rees Leisure's Marathon and the debut of their Hilly 10k. 15 minutes later, the Hilly 10k began for the first time. It's a new event designed to really make the most of Winchester's infamous hills. And despite heading off long after the rest of the participants, Team GB's long-distance runner Chris Thompson was first across the finish line.
I live in Hook, but I grew up in Fleet, so Winchester is where one of the areas I used to race when I was a young kid on my journey towards the Olympics. And I'd forgotten about the hill.
But it wasn't all about beating personal bests. The event worked in association with many local and national charities to help raise important funds.
So at Novi House and Jack's Place, we look after life-limited and life-threatened children and young adults. So the money that our supporters raised today helped us to deliver that care to them.
Despite the early start this weekend, spirits have been high throughout the day, with many of the runners being spurred on by their good causes.
Yes, I am. Pancreatic Cancer UK, in memory of my dad, who passed away from the disease about 8 years ago now.
The first bit's hard.
Yeah, it's
really
a difficult
hard.
start, but then it gets easier after that. So.
First 5's hard, second 5's fine.
Yeah, fine, yeah, that was good. Yeah, it's a nice race.
Rees Leisure, who organised the event, were over the moon with how the day went, with talks of the Hilly 10K returning next year.
Yes, we had 1,200 people signed up for the event, and the runners are still coming through, as you can hear in the background now as they're finishing up. But we've had some cracking finishing times today, and we've got a PB set by Team GB's Chris Thompson for the 10K as well, which is really exciting.
Grace Benson, Winchester News Online.
The Basingstoke Bison were at home against the Swindon Wildcats this weekend, and Kurt Hill was there.
As the NIHL National Division season kicks off, the Basingstoke Bison were hoping to continue their positive start as they hosted the Swindon Wildcats, whom they already recorded an impressive 6-2 victory against in Swindon yesterday. The Bison got off to the perfect start as new signing from Latvia, Edgars Landsbergs, showcased his talents a minute in with an impressive run and finish. The next goal came from excellent link-up play between Balaz and Norcliffe. The Bison third and fourth goals came from Norcliffe and Milton, giving the Bison an emphatic 4-0 lead inside the first 20 minutes. The Bison were on fire. However, Pokosdi snuck one in for the Wildcats seconds before the end of the first period. Surely it would be too big of an ask for the Wildcats to come back. They sure gave it their all though in the second period. Goals from Cowley and Jones put the Bison in an uncomfortable position as their 4-goal lead had slipped to just 1. However, Aidan Doughty slotted home and Paul Pett slammed in his shot. And the Bison were cruising again. New Canadian import Gail Lebuele slotting in the 7th Bison goal and securing the result and a memorable victory for the Bison faithful.
Couldn't be happy for one weekend. We'll take those and move on. For me, I think the guys understand what the difference is between, for example, last weekend and this weekend, and the things that we have to do to be successful.
Honestly, it's just like our coach says, Ash, just play the first 10 minutes. That's what wins and loses games.
And finally, if you fancy a blast from the past, then look no further, as blasting music, a strong smell of petrol and glistening cars in the sun from days gone by were all on show near Chichester. Our reporter Tom Hooker went to take a look.
Goodwood hosted its revival this month as the spirit of the 60s was brought back to life in West Sussex, with classic cars from around the world as well as flat caps adorned everywhere you look. And behind the wheel were some of the most famous names from the world of motorsport.
Yeah, it's stunning. I mean, if it's wet here, it's a little scary, so I'm glad it's dry. No, a beautiful day today. It's fun to drive out there. It's nice to get some laps in.
What an event this is, and there's some really talented drivers out there from the world of Formula 1, Formula E champions, touring car champions, and we're all just nose to tail doing as much as we can in whatever car we had.
Familiar faces admired the machines that dated as far back as the 1920s, including one that you might not expect.
I feel that what they've managed to achieve here is a real intimacy, and it's just obviously the most incredible setting where everyone gets fully involved and engaged with it.
It's just such a joyous occasion. You kind of walk around out here, you forget it's 2022. You're so in the moment.
Brilliant. It's a sonic stimulation for me
that I haven't really experienced before. I mean, just listening to the V8s and V12s and flat sixes like roaring away, it's just like goosebump inducing.
These classic machines fuel people's excitement, but away from the track, there's plenty more to see. Concert bands were dotted around the site, as well as pop-up parades, vendors, fun fairs, and much, much more. The revival has shown us once again there's many reasons to remember the past. The future looks bright as well, next year marking the 80th anniversary of its members' meeting. Tom Hooker, Winchester News Online.
And that's all we've got time for this week. Thanks for watching. See you next time.